Very curious to know the way you are reading the public mood. Because you said that there is a sense, there is a growing feeling, and obviously, Ms. Jayalalitha, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying this in the context of the public agitations which have happened, covered also by the media, the expressions of frustrations against scams, etc. I would like you to elaborate a little bit on this. Because if Jayalalitha says anything can happen in the future, and the future may be closer than you expect, in terms of political realignment, people would want to know a little bit more into your thoughts.
Jayalalitha also has to run a state and get the best possible deal for her state from the center.
That has never held you back from giving us your candid observations of the national picture.
That was all right when I was the leader of the opposition, but today I am the chief minister. I have to get a lot of assistance for my state from the center. In fact, I've just submitted a memorandum to the Prime Minister last month asking for assistance of 2,52,000 and odd crore rupees for the state, because the previous government in the state, the DMK government, which has just been defeated, has thrown the state into debt. We owe a debt of more than 1 lakh crore rupees on the part of the government, that is in bonds and market borrowings. Apart from this, the state electricity board is in debt to the extent of more than 45,000 crore rupees. Department by department, I'm conducting a review of each department, and I find that there is a deficit in almost every department. So, at the moment, I am the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu. It is my bounden duty to secure the best possible deal from the center for my state, to help my people out of debt, and to do the best I can for my people who have placed so much faith and trust in me.
Do you believe that if you elaborate a little bit more on what you said about the future being closer and political realignments, that it would come in the way of doing that? If yours is a deserving case for the people of Tamil Nadu and the government of Tamil Nadu, then Ms. Jayalalitha, these are two distinct things. And I would like to request you once again to give me your observations on how you view the national mood. You've seen the Lokpal debate. You've seen some of the key issues that have arisen in the Lokpal debate. Let me put it to you this way. Would you please tell me categorically, Ms. Jayalalitha, what your view is on the ongoing debate? Because I've asked this to several parties, and several parties are not taking a position, telling us that we will tell you our view when things come to Parliament. Where do you stand, say, for example, on the issue of the inclusion of the Prime Minister in the Lokpal bill, an issue which the government clearly is not in an open mind to discuss?
I will enunciate my views very clearly. The proposed Lokpal bill should exclude the Prime Minister for the following reasons. The Prime Minister is already covered under the Prevention of Corruption Act, and any misconduct by the Prime Minister can be investigated by the CBI. Sometimes the Lokpal could be used by foreign powers to destabilize the government. When a frivolous and politically motivated complaint against the Prime Minister is preferred before the Lokpal, and if the same is telecast by TV channels, which would be running it round the clock, it would dent the Prime Minister's credibility and authority. Even if nothing comes of the complaint ultimately, it would seriously dent the Prime Minister's authority. The Lokpal is empowered to investigate all allegations, and therefore, when an allegation is levelled against the Prime Minister before the Lokpal, he will be put on the defensive and constantly occupied to defend himself, to defend the accusation. In such an event, how can the government, which is reliant on the Prime Minister, work? The functioning of the Lokpal, inclusive of the Prime Minister, will pave the way for a parallel government, which would undermine the authority of the office of the Prime Minister. The state government that is the state government of
Introducing the Nabab Home Lift. Experience the future of convenience and accessibility with Nabab.
Tamil Nadu has not given its views on the Lokpal since no final draft has been arrived at by the Government of India. Lokpal is much more than what is envisaged in the Prevention of Corruption Act. The state's view of the Lokpal bill can be formulated only after the final draft to be introduced in Parliament is made known to the state governments by the Government of India. So that is my view. I have enunciated it very clearly.
Ms. Jayalalitha, I find a contradiction a little bit in your position on the Prime Minister and your assessment of the national mood. The national mood is clearly one of anger. And I take it your position on the Prime Minister.
Now, I must clarify one thing.
Yes.
The national mood is one of anger because of what is happening today. But when I say that the Prime Minister should not be included in the purview of the Lokpal, I am not lending my support to any individual. I am talking about the institution of the office of the Prime Minister.
Because you have taken strong positions on the issue of Mr. Raja. You've taken strong positions on the issue of Mr. Manu.
I'm taking a strong position on this too. If the Prime Minister is included in the purview of the Lokpal, that will mean there is a parallel government. And unless the Prime Minister is vested with full authority as laid down in the Constitution, a Prime Minister cannot function, cannot administer this country. So nothing should be done that will erode or undermine the authority of the Prime Minister.
What is your view on the non-inclusion of the CBI under the Right to Information Act, which has been an ongoing subject of debate? The CBI has been excluded under the RTA, and many people have a strong view against it. They feel it curbs transparency.
There are certain areas in government where secrecy has to be maintained for so many reasons. Just as you have the CBI at the center, you have the CBCID in the state also. Now, they deal with hardcore criminals, terrorists, criminals of all kinds. If every bit of information is sought to be obtained under the RTA, how can you deal with such criminals? They themselves might be putting up others to get this information on their behalf.
But the CBI is not an intelligence agency, as defined.
But they have to deal with criminals and with crime. So where investigation of crime and dealing with criminals is concerned, a certain amount of secrecy is necessary, otherwise you just can't function.
The other big ongoing debate, because Ms. Jayalalitha, a lot of your positions on key issues are important at the national level. There's been also an ongoing debate on the communal violence bill. And the Prevention of Communal Violence Bill, as drafted by the National Advisory Council, the debate has been over the fact that only minorities are included in the definition of a group, linguistic and religious and other minorities. Some people feel this is anti-majority. I'd like to know where you stand on this.
In general, we oppose this bill because we feel that maintenance of law and order is a state subject. It should be left to the state governments to deal with communal violence. In brief, that is my stand.
So a sweeping bill of this nature wouldn't really add to the prevailing atmosphere?
No, this is just another attempt by the center to encroach on the powers of the state governments. Law and order is something that can be dealt with only by the state governments. It should be left to the states.
Ms. Jayalalitha, I know that you have kept your options open as far as both Congress and the BJP in the course of this interview. May I ask you more broadly, do you feel that Indian politics, 2013-14, after the next general elections, can be a single party rule, or in your view, is coalition politics? And I'm phrasing this a little more broadly, hoping that I'll get a clearer position from you. Do you think coalition politics, with the involvement of greater regional players, is the order of the day?
I can't make any prediction. I'm not an astrologer. But in trying to answer your question, I can only say that it does seem as though the days of a single party majority rule are over. I think that we are destined to live with coalition governments in the future. At the moment, as things stand, I don't think any party is capable of getting a majority on its own.
Do you know what will happen if you read one book every week? Let me share some.
By that definition, you, as the leader of one of the largest parties, apart from the BJP and the Congress, in the prevailing political situation in India, in 2014 will be a major player. You cannot just restrict yourself to Chennai, Ms. Jayalalitha.
Let us wait till the next general elections come around. It's hardly a month and a half, not even a month and a half. It's just a little over a month since I took over as Chief Minister. So let us see what kind of situation arises when the next Lok Sabha elections are due.
In answer to your earlier question, can I please interpret that question? Your answer, you seem to indicate a midterm election could happen sooner than 2014.
Anything can happen at any time. That's what I said. I didn't say something is going to happen at this particular time. Anything can happen anytime. We have to be prepared.
Prior to 2014.
Pardon?
Prior to 2014.
It's possible, quite possible.
Why do you say so?
No, I don't wish to elaborate.
I want to now come to a couple of issues that are concerning Tamil Nadu, Ms. Jayalalitha. Your decision to scrap several old schemes, in insurance schemes, housing schemes, television schemes, the metro. I'm not aware of all the details, but broadly my question to you is at two levels. One is your decision to scrap schemes. And the second is the inquiry commissions which you have instituted into one particular case. Ms. Jayalalitha, there is a lot of trepidation and nervousness of your political rivals. And there is concern that why is Jayalalitha cancelling some of the other old schemes? Is it got to do with the fact that there are certain words attached to these schemes, that they are associated with a particular political party in terms of semantics? Use of the word Kalinga, for example. Why have you done that?
Where was this word used?
I'm told that in a particular insurance scheme, this particular word is. But why would you scrap some of the old schemes?
I have not scrapped any scheme that is really beneficial or useful to the people. I have only scrapped schemes which were unproductive, which were a colossal drain on the state's finances, and which were implemented mainly with a view to benefiting people in the DMK. Now, you refer to commissions of inquiry. So far, I have instituted only one commission of inquiry. That is into the construction of the new Secretariat building.
Ms. Jayalalitha, on Sri Lanka, I remember, if I'm not mistaken, that you used to say that Karunanidhi only keeps giving letters to the centre. As far as Sri Lanka is concerned, the government hasn't taken any action. Fishermen are still arrested. I don't know if there is any talk of an economic embargo on Sri Lanka. You have seen pictures in the international and the domestic media of the worst human rights abuses on people by the Sri Lankan army. They're all over. Now, you made the point that you have raised the issue. Now, if the government doesn't do anything substantial, will you just sit and watch?
No, we have to keep trying to make the government of India act. Very recently, after our government took charge here, about 17 fishermen were taken into custody by the Sri Lankan Navy. And then we contacted the government of India and we saw to it that they were released. They were sent home very recently. Another 4 fishermen were also taken into custody. And after intervention by the center, we got them back. So action is being taken, but the state government has to keep at it, and as a political leader, we have to keep trying to get the center to be more responsive.